Here's why, as a US based seller, you should be launching on Amazon UK. Let's get into it. So, a lot of brands typically set up shop in the US, and the reason is there's a lot more volume on keywords, there's a lot more opportunity to scale due to the size of the population, over 300 million. And because of that, they don't really look at expanding elsewhere. They typically just focus on the US market and they don't really break out of that. Some might expand to Canada, some might look at Europe. Some people will expand there, but there's not too many that do. And because of that, Europe and the UK is still a really good opportunity. So I brought up an audit here just to show you exactly what we see as an agency owner when we audit brands in the UK. Now, there are some that are smaller, that aren't doing as much revenue, but when you actually look at it, there are brands that are doing quite well in the UK. And this isn't a single situation here. We see lots of brands that are doing quite well in the UK. And in particular, this brand only has a handful of products. It's under 10. They're doing quite well in terms of revenue. And this is just from PPC, right? So that doesn't take into account their organic sales. And as you can see, they are getting a lot of revenue. They're getting a lot of clicks here, 10,000 orders in that period. Also 30,000 clicks on their ads. And this isn't just this industry. There's lots of industries in the UK that are doing really well. Now, the good thing is, and this is something you won't see in the US very often, but the cost per click is very low. And because of that, you have a lot more opportunity to spend and scale in that market, take up those top of search placements, and actually get that market share that you need. So it will be a lot easier to set up shop in the UK, expand, and take market share. Now, the thing that's tough is you need to make sure that when you do, you are targeting niches that make sense. So what works in the US might not work in the UK. Now, before we get into how to actually look at that, you need to be aware. The population of the UK is the same size as roughly California and Texas. So California's economy is roughly the same size as the UK. So it's nowhere near as much as the US, but there is potential here. The infrastructure is very good. You get one-day shipping very easily. It's a small country, right? You can drive across it in 8 hours if you have no traffic. So it's a really small and very easy and efficient place to be. And doing business here is no different, right? Other than the VAT, which that's its own thing, you'll have to get tax advice on that. Now, when it comes to VAT, this is something you're going to have to deal with a tax advisor on. But what I can tell you is when it comes to your VAT, you do need to make sure when you price your products that it's included. Because if you don't include the VAT in the price, you're going to have to pay it out of the actual revenue that comes in. So you do need to be aware of that. In the UK and the EU, we do include it in the sales price. It's quite different from the US where you add it on top. It's better for the customer. It's a lot easier to pay what you see on the shelf. But when it comes to running your business on Amazon, that can be a bit of a tricky thing to deal with. Now, to do the proper research, what you need to do is go to Marketplace Product Guidance. If you're brand registered, you'll have access to this. But if you're not, you unfortunately won't. So make sure you register a Seller Central account, get brand registered, then you will have access to all of these tools under Growth. Now, go to Category Insights. And from here, you want to make sure and select UK. You can only do this for UK, Germany, and Japan, and US, of course. So you want to do is select the category that you're going for, whether it be, I guess, DIY and tools, or let's do beauty and personal care, shampoo, and you can pick which type of product that you're going for. So for example, if you sell a shampoo product, it's going to be very competitive, but you can see exactly how much in sales you're getting for that category. Also, how many units are being sold. So almost 1 million units a month are being sold in the UK. And if we go to the US for the same category, you can see it's about a third, right? It's 3 million units a month in the US. It's about 750,000 in the UK. So if you're already getting a good amount of sales in the US, you have your reviews, you're established, well, have a look at the category insights and see if it's a good fit. Now, just because in the US it works doesn't mean it's going to in the UK. So there's a lot of things you need to change, particularly with your marketing. Sometimes words that you use in the US aren't going to really apply to the UK. So you need to make sure listings are adapted to that. You also want to look at what the pricing is. You might find that the pricing's a bit less in the UK, and that's because in the US, people are willing to spend more for products than in the UK. But what you want to look at is, can you actually make a profit when it comes to VAT and the price of the market? And if you can you sell more based on the volume and because of the low competition and make that profit that way? Or is it better to focus on another product? So another thing you can do is actually identify what main search terms you should be looking at. So some of these are branded, like Stanley Cup. Travel mug isn't branded, of course, but you want to look at these terms, see what is the cost per click. You can create a campaign if you have a listing, just see what the average bid range is. Add them to Helium if you want to. If you want to use Helium 10, we have a link below. So there's a discount coupon there. If you sign up, it's worth checking what the bidding structures are, especially if you're doing your due diligence. And down here, you can also see return ratios, search to purchase, amount of brands in the market, number of new ASINs, and the average star rating. So if you find, for example, that your product in the US doesn't have such a good rating, well, potentially that might be a bit of a problem because you're competing with people that are above 4 stars. Now, the good thing is, if you are launching an already established product in the US, then bringing it over and utilizing those reviews works. And you'll notice when you go on Amazon.co.uk, a lot of products all have US reviews on them. Same with EU. So you'll see German, Spanish, French reviews on there. And that's all very common. It's not really going to affect the buyer in terms of what they actually buy. It's more going to be, is the star rating reasonable? If it is, okay. Have a look at some decent reviews if they're into that. And also about the listing itself. So as long as you've covered all those bases, you're priced competitively, you're showing it top of search so people can actually see you, and there's enough volume on those keywords, then you have a good chance. Now, when it comes to actually succeeding on Amazon.co.uk, you do need to make sure your keywords are reasonable. So some long tail keywords in the US might have reasonable search volume, but as you can see, for example, what I was showing you before when it came to the shampoo is UK is about a third or just under a third of the sales of the US. So certain long tail keywords aren't going to work. You're probably going to have to be a little bit more broad in what you're actually targeting. But at the same time, the cost per click is going to be lower than the US. So that is going to be a benefit you're going to have to look at. So when you actually launch in the UK, I think there will be a good opportunity for you to actually get your brand going if you do all your due diligence. But if you just launch what you're doing in the US, you follow the exact same strategy, you're probably not going to do so well. So these are the things you need to be mindful of when it comes to UK. And based on what I've seen, I think that there's a good chance you will succeed in the US. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is the US is a large country. So you're going to have good weather in some places, bad weather in other places. Whilst the UK, the weather is largely the same across the whole country. Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland. It's all the same, more or less. A little bit colder up north. Wales is a little bit more rainy. The southeast is a bit more sunny. But you're typically going to have very similar temperatures across the country. So when it comes to seasonal products, you are going to get affected by this if you are selling a summer related product. So you do need to keep in mind, if there's a heat wave or something like that, sales are going to spike. So that will have a big impact. Same if it's the summer and it's raining the whole time, you're probably not going to get any sales. Whilst in the US, of course, it might rain in one state, but it's sunny in another. So there's a lot of variety with that. Search volume doesn't really get impacted until it gets to the autumn. So when it comes to seasonal products, that's something that will affect you. When it comes to products that can be sold all year round, there will be some seasonality that does affect you, but it's not as bad as when it's like summer, winter kind of products. If you're selling things geared towards the snow, potentially that's going to be very rare. You might sell some to people in Scotland or the Highlands, if anything, but the southeast, it rarely snows. So these would be better selling in Germany and Poland, where there's more snow, and a lot of places nearby that have snow. So do keep that in mind when you are choosing what product to do. Make sure and do your research. it will show you, luckily, what months are the best. Like, for example, when it comes to, let's say, the insulated mugs in the UK, you can see last year insulated mugs sold the best in December. So even though it's an insulated mug, people still buy it in June. So that will give you a bit more confidence into when if the product can be sold during the summer months. But something like a paddleboard, that's going to get largely zero sales in the winter. So you do need to look at that and make sure you're on top of everything. I hope you found that helpful and hopefully give you some insights on how to get established on Amazon UK. If you need help with this or you just don't know where to begin, contact us below, KickstartPPC.com. We'll figure out how to help you out, get you established in the UK, and see if your products are a good fit. If you want more content like this, Amazon PPC and FBA content, don't forget to subscribe. We're releasing tons of Amazon PPC content every week, so you won't want to miss out on what's up and coming and what we've uploaded before. Now, until next video, hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Bye.